actual application process. And if there's anything else in particular that you guys want to know about, definitely let me know. So in the chat box, if there's anything that you guys have questions about as it relates to hiring, drop that stuff in the chat box so that as I'm going through everything, I can answer these questions. I can hit on these things. Like I said, today I'm going to focus more so on the actual process of application. But I also want to make sure you guys understand all processes and whether it's DHA or the non-comp or whatever hiring questions you might have that I can answer. I want to make sure you guys leave this session fully prepped. So yeah, drop those things into the chat. So we'll just get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. Okay, I'm going to camera up. All right, so this is USAJobs. I have not yet signed in because I literally want to walk you guys through every part of this. Okay, so we're going to log in together. So first thing we'll do is hit sign in. And I think you guys remember how I talked about you'll want to make sure that you are using an email address that will follow you. Did you send along the resume workshop you went over in the first? Let me open my chat up a little bit. And over in the first workshop, I got the email with the materials from the second workshop. Vanessa, you want to hop in while I'm signing in? You want to hop in and answer that question? Vanessa sent the emails for me.
Yes, I did send it, Lily. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. Let me double check that. I will resend to you. A moment.
Is there anyone else on the line today that did not receive documents? Go ahead and drop your name or something into the chat so that Vanessa can take care of you and make sure you're good to go. All right, so usually, it probably didn't make me do this because I just recently signed in, but usually when you sign in, it's going to send like a code, a verification code to your cell phone, and you'll have to put that code in. But a lot of times after you've done signed in it a few times, especially if you're signing in from the same device, a recognized device of yours, a lot of times it won't ask you every single time. So, all right, boom, here we are. So I have applied for 5 jobs, and clearly, as you guys, well, maybe you may not know, but these jobs here were jobs that I did for a workshop, right? I'm not applying to be an archaeologist, engineer, biological science technician, none of those. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm just going to find and pick a random job, and I'm going to go through the application process so that you guys can see how that works. But down here at the bottom, that is a job that I applied for right there. That's the job that I'm in. So, what does everything look like? So, you guys are about to get all into my business, but I'm going to scroll really fast on certain things. So, when you sign into USAJobs and you're looking at your profile and all of your inside information, this is kind of what your platform looks like. So, it has the jobs that you've applied for, any jobs that you may have searched for and saved, and then as well as any saved searches. So all of that stuff will be right there. So if you ever are in a rush and you go to USAJobs and you search for a job and you find it and you know you want to apply for that job, but you don't have the time to apply right then and there, instead of losing that job or having to search for it all over again, just hit save. And guess what? When you sign in like I did, it'll be sitting right here waiting on you. And all you got to do is click that job and you can, go ahead and start your application. So we're going to go through these options up here just so you guys can see what that looks like if you have not already created USAJobs, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. All right. So it has your general information up there at the top. It has I'm a U.S. citizen. My hiring paths are U.S. citizen, federal employee. It has some of my old Forest Service experience and stuff here. Actually, that's how I started into the agency as a forester in the 0460 series. And I was in a GS9 position, which I really started as the GS7, but that position that I took was a GS9. So it took me a year before I could bounce up to that. So on this first page, it's just going to show you all the information that you put in there about yourself. Really, that resume. So I built a resume in USAJobs. So that's really what this is showing, right? So a lot of this information is super old because I definitely don't use that resume again. But if you sign in, that's exactly what you're going to see. The next thing that I have that I'm clicking on are documents, right? So my documents, as you can see in the documents area, you can have 5 resumes just hanging out on your profile, waiting on you to utilize them for application. As you can see, I have 3 different resumes, right? A very, very old resume that I used when I first started things in 2013, a resume in 2018. That was when I applied for the position previous to this, and then this last resume that I used to apply for the position that I'm currently in. Now, even though my resumes are like old, some people may have resumes that are still fresh. Like they all could say 2022, but they could be different resumes. So when I say different, you always want to make sure that you tailor your resume to fit the jobs that you're applying for, especially if you're applying to jobs that are, drastically different. And so what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're going to apply for an administrative type position, or a position maybe in research and development, or you might apply for a field position. So the research position, you might want to really focus on your experience writing papers, working in a lab, or whatever that job is. You want to make sure you tailor your resume and really highlight any experiences, any engagement, any exposure that you have on your resume to fit that. Another resume could be heavily field focused. You talk about all of your volunteer work, or your study abroad, or anything that you did that had you in the field, really getting that hands-on experience, or maybe any trainings that you might have taken, again, that was specific to that position. So you can have 5 resumes. So that way you don't have to come back and say, oh my gosh, I want to apply for this job. Let me change my resume. Oh my gosh, I have another job on it. Let me change my resume. Like, no, just have all of these tailored resumes just hanging out and waiting on you to apply. This little guy here that says searchable, if I click that, that means that my resume is now searchable by recruiters that are looking for someone that have a certain skill set, that they are seeking for their agency or department. So when you can only make one resume searchable. So if you have your master resume, that's the one that you want to make searchable. None of my resumes are searchable because I'm not looking for a job. I don't want anyone to find me. If I want something, I'll find it. So that's just me. But I would definitely encourage you guys to make your resume searchable. So again, recruiters or others can find your profile and find you and consider you for a position, even if you don't go looking for it, right? So that's resumes. If you click on this other tab, other, you have the opportunity to upload up to 10 supporting documents. Your supporting documents can be your transcript, it can be a certificate, it can be, your if you have been in the agency, all these documents over here that I have, the SL50, those are documents that we have as federal employees. So when I apply for a job, I actually have to add these documents. These are documents that you guys won't have because you're not considered a Forest Service employee. But if you're in the federal service, you're gonna have these documents. I also have down here my last signed performance evaluation, which is also a requirement as a federal government employee when applying for a job. Again, not a requirement of you guys. So this is your opportunity to add any documents that you know that you want to add to your applications in the future. So for veterans, your DD 214, right? For you guys as RAP, you want to have your RAP certificate here as a supporting document. So again, you can have up to 10 documents just hanging out, and I'll show you guys how to attach them to your application in just a second, but I wanted to show you what it looks like here. And you can also name it, right? So I have transcripts, AMU, I have other transcripts, but they're not needed, so I don't even have them on here. My COR cert, SL50, and like I said, the other one was, it just says other, even though it was my performance evaluation. All right, so preferences. You can put in your preferences. Are you willing to travel? How much travel are you willing to do? Are you willing to relocate? Where are you interested in being at the time? Again, I haven't changed this stuff in years because it doesn't matter right now for me in my life. So right now, Or then I had Alabama, Florida, Georgia. Permanent position is what I was looking for. So you want to go through here and really put in all of your preferences because again, people can go on here and find you without you finding them. So it's important to make sure that your preferences and things are updated so that that information is current when your information is shared. All right, so we're going to find a job to apply for. Would anyone like to throw out a job of interest for me to use as a real example? Just drop it in the chat and we'll go for whatever I see if I feel like we'll be able to use it as a good example. So, any takers, drop a position in the chat. I'm watching the chat to see if there's anything that. A botanist. Okay. All right. So let me ask you another question, Daniela. Have you looked up a botanist on OPM? Do you know what that series is? Did you do that? No idea. All right. Hey, guess what? That's fair. So you know what we're gonna do first? I could easily just type in botanist or plants or something like that, but we're gonna go on a little scavenger hunt here, and we're going to find some series, and then we're gonna go back to USA Jobs. So two things here. I showed you guys the other day how to get to it, or you can go here and you can say, and let's see what happens. So botany series is a 0430. Write it down. Write it down. Daniela, so you have it. 0430. And that is for a professional botanist position. There are some plant related technician positions that we can also look at. And a lot of those plant folks too also go under the 0404 series. So depending on what comes up in our search, we may have to change it, but hey, we'll give it a try. So we're going to go back to USA Jobs and we're going to type in 0430. Da-da-da. Like I told you guys, I haven't been updating my stuff. It's been over 6 months since you updated. No, thank you. Move all the stuff out the way. All right, let me remove my filters. All right, so we have 7 jobs that were identified under the 0430, and they are high level positions. GS13s, well, that second one is the GS5 through 11 botanist. Okay, so there's no Forest Service jobs under botanist. Let's see if there's a biological science technician. 0404. All right, so there's 27 jobs. And typically, like I said, what I would do is play with my filters on the side, and so what we're going to do here is click special authorities because that's what we're really looking for. We got to find a job for your special authority so that this example makes sense. So I'm going to just try to find a random job, you guys. Let's see what else we got. All right, so because there weren't any botany or plant type positions, we're going to have to try something else. But thank you so much, Daniela, for throwing a position out there. So all of these are timber sale prep jobs. Let me see. There's a recreation one. We'll go for that one. Let's apply for this recreation job right here. All right. So I won't go through the entire announcement because we did that during the last session, but I'll just kind of point out a couple of things here. So this job is a forestry technician, and one of the things I told you guys about forestry technician series, the 0462, is that that is the official title. And a lot of times you'll see what that person will really be doing or the resource area that the position falls under in parentheses. Sometimes it won't be there. So you really have to read through the announcement to find out exactly what this person will be doing. So this one says recreation. All right, so we're going to scroll down. We got our special authorities right there. And you can always click on that to make sure things are everything and you see your authority there. The duties are laid out as far as what you would be doing. Remember, that's one of those areas that you want to find those buzz and keywords to put into your resume. The second place to find the buzz and keywords are going to be right here in this qualifications section, looking at that specialized experience, if you guys remember that from the other day. And then we're going to scroll on down, looking at required documents. It says that we need a resume and the education, you need a transcript. And boom, here we go. Resource assistance, you must submit your certificate of hiring eligibility. Okay, so we're good to go because we're listed down there. So let's apply for this job. So we're going to scroll back up. We're going to hit apply. All right, so the first thing that you must do when you hit apply is select a resume. I'm going to select my most recent resume of 2021. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more and hit save and continue. The next thing that it wants me to do is select my supporting documents, those other required documents. It is always best practice to use the checklist. So if you click that guy, it's going to open it up, and those same required documents that you read in that announcement will be listed right here. To be on the safe side, go ahead and check. I need a resume. Resume has been added. You need a transcript. Let's add my transcript. Boom. The other document that we needed was our certificate. That first part up there talks about for serving employees. So again, let me back up. If you are a seasonal person and you have had experience as a federal employee, then you will have these other documents, the SL50, you can attach those. But if you haven't, you've only had your RA-ship, then you don't need that. So again, at the bottom of that list, like I showed you in the announcement, it was talking about special authorities and the resource assistant certificate. Now, obviously, I don't have a certificate, but I do have my COR cert here, so I'm going to go ahead and attach it to use as my play resource assistant certificate. All right, and that's all I want. And I'm going to hit save and continue. Okay, so it says review your package. Always take your time when doing the application, never rush. So it says review your resume. I mean, you got your resume, so you can take the time to hit view to make sure that it is correct one, especially if you got multiple resumes on your profile. You want to make sure you have the right one, so you can click that guy and view it. And then you want to scroll on down and make sure that you have your transcripts. And this is your opportunity to add or remove the document. So I got my transcript and I got my RAP certificate. So I am good to go. And again, you have over here on the right side an area to do your checklist once again. So I give you every opportunity to make sure that you have the right documents. And that's the reason why when you submit your application and that job closed, there's nothing else can be done. You can't email HR the right documents and expect them to add it to your profile, to your application package. Like, no, you have to take your time and build your package correctly now. And I can't tell you how many people still to this day apply with the wrong documents or not submitting the required documents. And I'll give you guys some real numbers here in a little while after we get through the process of a recent hire. So here it asks if you want to share your demographic information. I always click yes. I'm fine with that. And how did you hear about the job? This is always good to share just so we can see what kind of recruitment efforts we are doing that are useful. So if you heard it from a recruiter, you can put that in there or however you might have found out about the job. Save and continue. Continue with the agency. Now it's going to transfer everything from USAJobs to the Forest Service application. All right, so now we are in the Forest Service USA staffing application system. One of the things that you'll notice is that it did not ask me for my name, my address, my phone number, email. And the reason why is because it pulls that information straight from your profile, which is why it's very important for you to make sure that your profile is updated. Because if you apply, then you may be applying with the outdated email address, phone number, and all of that information. So again, make sure that is correct. So I'm going to hit continue. So that is all my old personal information. I'm going to hit continue again. All right, so up here, it tells me what I'm applying for. The position title is a forestry technician, recreation for the Forest Service. That's the announcement number. This job opened November the 15th. It closes on May the 13th. Again, a lot of times, some jobs might be open for 5 days, 6 days. It's not gonna always have that big window. So make sure you pay attention. And my application status is incomplete. So we're gonna go through this really quickly. It's going to ask you about your veteran's preference. If you are a veteran, then you will know exactly what you need to put here based on your particular status. I'm not a veteran, so I'm going to click A. Continuing on. There's another question. Here's a rule of thumb, you guys. It's going to ask you a bunch of random questions just to kind of make sure that they understand who's applying to this position and what groups you identify with. Rule of thumb is if you don't know what it's asking, then 9 times out of 10 it doesn't apply to you. So that's the rule of thumb here. So it says, are you a veteran? Blah, blah, blah. I don't even have to read the rest of this because I'm not even a veteran. So I'm going to say no. Are you a current USDA employee? Again, I'm going to do this application as if I'm you guys, not myself. So I'm not a USDA employee. So I'm going to go ahead and hit no. Scrolling on down. Were you employed overseas as an appropriated fund employee? Again, I'm not an employee of the Forest Service or the agency. So hit no. Are you the spouse of a member of the armed forces? Again, that depends on if you are or not. But for this example, I'm going to hit no. Number 6, are you a current or former permanent armed service agency county employee? No. Are you a current federal employee who currently holds a career or conditional appointment? I'm going to hit no. Are you a federal employee? Again, we can just keep hitting no. But be careful. Make sure that you really see what it's asking you. Have you completed at least 1 year of continuous service immediately before separation? And again, it's asking about federal service. So I'm going to hit no. Are you a current or former federal employee displaced? Again, I'm going to hit no. I wish there was a way that if you were never a federal employee, you could just click that and it'll like just pre-populate all of those questions to just get you past that. But unfortunately, it's not. Are you a current or former employee of the Land Management Agency? And it has some listed. Again, we're going to say no. Are you a current accepted service employee? We're going to say no. Are you a Peace Corps volunteer or AmeriCorps visa? I'm going to say no, I am not. Do you have a severe intellectual disability, severe physical disabilities, so forth and so on? I'm going to say no, I do not. So the reason why these questions are being asked, it goes back to, if you guys remember on USAJobs, how it has those icons of who can apply for the job. It's trying to see, hey, Sylvia, you're applying for this job. What group are you claiming? And then it's going to also need me to attach the documents that supports the claim. So again, I talked about how veterans have their own documents. So it asked me all the veteran questions. It asked me about federal service and questions, which means I would have needed those federal documents. It's asking about Peace Corps because they also have a certificate like you guys. Persons with disability can be hired with a disability letter. So that's the reason why it's asking all these questions. But now we're about to get to you guys. Have you completed a qualifying conservation project with the U.S. Forest Service? If yes, confirm that you meet the following. And here's where it gets tricky because let me make sure that the other question is there. Yeah, okay. So you received a public land court certificate. Even though this sounds very similar to your program, this is not your program. We're going to hit no, because you did not go through the PLC program. You went through the RAP program. Have you registered for reemployment consideration? We were not a federal employee, so we're going to hit no. Continuing on. Are you a former federal employee? No, I'm not. No, I am not. Are you a former resource assistant with the U.S. Forest Service? If yes, confirm that you meet the following. Bingo. Here's where you guys want to look for. You receive their certificate of eligibility for non-competitive hiring status based on resource assistance program. You successfully completed a minimum of 960 hours of full or part-time work, not to exceed 3,500 hours over a 2-year period. You earned an undergraduate, associate, or bachelor or graduate degree from an accredited institution of higher learning, and you are within your 2-year eligibility period from the date the certificate was signed. Okay, so as long as you meet all of these, we're going to say yes. We finally got a yes. And with that, we're going to continue moving on. Whoa. Are you a veteran? No, I am not. Are you a veteran? No, I am not. Continue. Okay, so this job here, as you notice, it was advertised for a really long time, and we call those continuous open announcements. So a lot of those are always going to have a ton of locations that are also posted with it. And what you want to do here, whenever you find a job like this, you want to select all the locations that you truly want to be considered for. But one thing to note is that just because Harrisburg, Illinois is here, does not mean that that location is available, right? That location could have been filled, but what they don't do is when a location is filled, they don't come here and update it. So Harrisburg, Illinois could still be available or it could not be available. So you will go through and select all locations that you want to be considered for, right? So I'm just gonna put a, do some random locations. Okay. But a lot of times it might just be one location or 3 or 4 or whatever. So it's going to ask, select the lowest grade you are willing to accept for this position. So this position, if I'm not mistaken, let me go back up, was a 6-7, a GS 6-7. So it's asking me what is the lowest that you're willing to take. I'm going to select a 6. That's my lowest I'm willing to take. All right, now we're getting on to the assessment questions. And this is where you really have to read the questions and be careful with your answers, because this is where you can start to self-disqualify, right? And so it's going to ask you some questions to rate you for your qualifications. And it's going to ask you questions at the 6 level, and it's going to ask you questions at the 7 level. If you apply to a job that only displays the 1 GS level, then it'll only ask you those questions at that GS level. Question number 1. From the statements below, select the response that best describes your education and or experience as it pertains to meeting the basic requirements for the forestry technician recreation GS 0462 06 position. Please select only one response. A says, I have 1 year of specialized experience to at least the GS5. And the reason why, again, goes back to what I showed you guys in the announcement. This is exactly what we read in the announcement, right? And to be qualified for a certain GS level, you have to have that experience at the next lowest level. So to qualify for the 6, you need the 5 experience. To qualify for the 7, you need the 6 experience. So it's saying that I have 1 year of specialized experience that's equivalent to a GS5. Examples of specialized experience is defined as one or more of the following: inspected special use permits, blah, blah, blah. I won't read all of this, but again, if we're going to select that, we got to make sure that stuff is in our resume. So if you read this and you know you need this, you might want to go back and put it on your resume if you did not. All right, so the next one, B, says, I have a full year, 18 semesters, 27 quarter hours of successfully completed graduate level coursework that is directly related to the work of the position, such as forestry, range management, agriculture from an accredited college or university. So the first one talks just about experience. The second one talks about that graduate level coursework. C says, I have a combination of experience and education, which together meets the qualification requirements of this position. D says, I do not meet the requirements described above. Now, of course, if you select D, we all know what happens. You're done. You're finito. It's over, right? So these other ones, any of these 3 answers, A, B, or C, is good. It does not mean that you have to have B and it's going to help you to rise to the top, or A is going to make you rise to the top. It doesn't matter. You can have any of these 3. So if you know that you have that specialized experience and you know you have that graduate level work, then you can click C. But you know, if you know you never went to graduate school and you don't have this, and you only have that experience, and you only want to click A. So I'm gonna say A, just because a lot of RAs only have a bachelor's degree. So again, I'm trying to do this as much as I can to relate to you guys. So we're gonna go A. Same question on number 2, but now it's asking at the GS7 level. That A is asking if I have that 1 year specialized experience at the GS6. B is asking if I have that 1 year full of graduate level coursework. C is that combination, and D says I do not meet it. Again, I'm going to select A, because even if you don't have that graduate level at work, it's still the same. It says 18 there, it says 18 there. That one is for the 6, and this one is for the 7. What changes is that specialized experience. So you may qualify for the GS6 based off of this GS5 specialized experience, but if you have not done the GS6 specialized experience, then you may not qualify for the 7. But you want to make sure you read through that to see if you do have that experience. And again, it must be on your resume. So you can't just make sure, you can't just say, oh, I have all this up here, so I should be good for both. Like, no, it's totally different specialized experience that are listed here. So you got to make sure that that's what your resume says, right? And that is also the reason why it's important. I think someone may or may not have asked me one day about if they had been in the same position or maybe at different levels, should they list it out? You're gonna want to make sure you show that difference, because if you were in a certain position and you then changed, you came back the next summer or came back again, and they promoted you, well, guess what? Your duties may have changed. So now you need to show that representation of that experience at that GS level, so that when you apply for another job, HR can see that you have that and they'll qualify you. All right, I'm gonna move on down. And I have a chat box open here. So if you guys have questions while I'm going through, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll answer them as I go. All right, so we're going to go on down. So now we're going to get to those more specific position experience type questions. And this is the thing also that I showed you guys the other day when I showed you the example to the assessment questions. Another place that you got to pull these buzzwords to put on your resume. Please note that as you answer these questions, HR is going to, well, the system will grade you based off of your answers. And if you don't meet a certain score, then you will not make it to the next round. So again, a lot of people get stuck in the application process at this point. So make sure you clearly read all of the options, and give yourself the best one that really represent your experience. And you have to be mindful of how you word it on your resume, because you could select a certain answer and then on your resume, it doesn't read that way. And so HR won't, or they can't give you that credit. So for number 3, it says to provide an input about long-term needs for management of recreation resources. A says, I have not had education, training, or experience in performing this task. B, I have had education or training in how to perform this task, but have not yet performed it on the job. C, I have performed this task on the job. My work on this task was monitored closely by a supervisor or senior employee to ensure compliance with proper procedures. D, I have performed this task as a regular part of a job. I have performed it independently and normally without review by a supervisor or senior employee. Lastly, E, I am considered an expert in performing this task. I have supervised performance of this task, or am normally the person who is consulted by other workers to assist or train them in doing this task because of my expertise. Okay, so obviously, you guys, if you click A, that's not going to help you, right? B really won't help you either. E is what's going to give you the maximum amount of points for that answer. However, if you know that you have not had experience performing this task unsupervised, or you haven't showed someone or trained someone, don't select that. But if you know that you've done it, make sure you say it on your resume. One thing or two things that hangs people up with a question like this and this answer is expert. I'm not an expert, Sylvia. I can't say that I'm an expert. Well, guess what? It doesn't say an expert is someone that has 5 years of this experience. It doesn't say that. So if you know that you've done this job and you know that you've done it unsupervised, and you know that you may have served as a crew lead or a team lead, and you show someone else how to do that, you can consider yourself an expert for this application. The other thing that hangs people up is the supervise. It's not saying that you are an official supervisor. It says supervise the performance of that task. So again, if you served as a crew lead or a team lead, or you show someone how to perform these tasks, then go ahead and give yourself credit for E. However, you must make sure it says that on your resume. So on your resume, it can't just say that I'm responsible for providing long-term needs management, recreation management needs. It can't say that. It has to say that I serve as a crew lead providing long-term needs for recreation management resources. It needs to say something like that. So you need to make sure, again, that it matches what this is saying. Again, not to say that you are a supervisor, but that you supervise the performance or you train someone in doing that. Hopefully that makes sense. I try to break that down as much as I could, but I don't think I can break it down any further. So again, that's important because again, a lot of people really, hang themselves with these questions because they think they have to be a supervisor or they have to be an expert. There's nothing on here that says the expert is X, Y, and Z. So I'm not going to read through every last one of these questions. I'm just going to go through here and give myself some random answers, right? So the second one was talking about reporting information. This one is talking about prepare detailed day-to-day project work plans. So again, go through and read each question. Make sure it's on your resume. I'm just answering questions. I'm going to scroll some more. Drop me some questions in the chat. You guys are quiet. Either I'm doing a really good job or you guys are a little nervous about asking certain questions. And I don't want you to be nervous. I want you to ask everything that you are thinking so that you can leave here well informed and ready to apply for jobs. There's a lot of questions here. And which is really why it's so important for you to not do your application in a rush. Make sure that you are not being bothered. You don't have any distractions. You're not in a rush because these questions can get tricky. And you're like, wait a minute, let me reread that again to make sure that I got the right answers here. Da, da, da. Thorough explanation. So far, so good. Perfect. Thank you, guys. I will continue trying to be as thorough as possible. All right, we're finally here then. Confused on the point system. Okay, all right, I'll provide some clarity there in just a second. All right, so after I have answered those like position type questions, the last one says that I certify that I have read the announcement and have attached all supporting documents as required in the required documents section of the vacancy announcement. I understand that failure to submit all the required legal documents prior to the closing date of the announcement may result in loss of consideration. We're going to say yes, that we understand. And again, you guys have no idea how many people hit yes, that they understand that the required documents are indeed required and they still don't have them. Blows my mind, but it happens. And then 26, I certify to the best of my knowledge and believe that all the information submitted by me with my application for employment is true, complete, and made in good faith, and that I have truthfully and accurately represented my work experience, knowledge, skills, abilities, and education. Again, I'm not going to read all of this, but it's just saying, are you being truthful here? And we're going to say, yes, we're being truthful. And the reason why is because I've done this stuff and I have it on my resume. All right, so to answer your question, again, these questions that we went through, and I just kind of put random answers on, there is a point system. And that point system, the total number can change depending on the position. But there's a certain amount of points that you will get for each answer. And when you hit submit and it scores you, it's going to provide HR a list of people based off their qualifications. It's going to say, I think it's like most qualified, most qualified. It's like 3 different levels. I'll have to show you guys in the when we finish the application. I'll go back through and pull a job and I'll show you where it breaks that down. But there's a point system, and again, if you don't meet those points, then you're not considered. So this is all self-qualification at this point. And I'm going to come back to that, Natalia. All right, so the next thing after you get through all of those many questions is your documents. So although we in the beginning already selected our documents, this is where you add them to the actual package. So it says required resume. And right here, available documents are the documents that I selected in the beginning. If you guys remember, I only selected 3, so it only gives me these 3 options here. Okay, so resume, boom. We're gonna go through and we're gonna find the next one. If you had a cover letter, you'll put it there. So you're gonna go through there and make sure you play the matching game. Simple enough, matching game. All right, so performance appraisal, I'm one of you guys, so I don't have that. So transcript. My AAMU is my transcript. Okay, if you notice, there is not anything on here that says PLC, resource assistant program. It doesn't have Peace Corps, right? It doesn't say any of that. So what we're going to do is use this guy here, other. And I'm going to place my COR cert there as my fake wrap certificate. This professional certification, don't confuse that. That's where I would have used my real CR certificate. I would have used it right there because that's a real certificate for that. But anywho, we're going to hit continue. But before I hit continue, see here it says, are you missing a document? If for whatever reason you had forgot to attach something and you didn't see it in your drop down menu, then you could upload it then and there by hitting upload. But let's say we're good. We're going to hit continue. Since we should reflect our answers from the assessment questions in our resume, how many bullet points should we have for each job experience on our resume? Or how long should our paragraphs be? Your paragraphs and your bullets need to be as long as your experience is and that you can speak to it. You never want to fluff your resume and make a long resume just so it is long. You also don't have to beat a dead horse. After you say you've done something and you talked about how you did it, what you did do it, what you accomplished from it, maybe the tools and equipment that you used to do it, then leave it alone. Move on to the next thing. You don't want to be simple. You don't want to, you want to make sure that you're being very thorough with your experience. So again, you might say, I completed forestry inventory. And then someone else may say, I completed common stand exams, or I completed 7 common stand exams over 20 acres um, utilizing a clinometer. And you might want to like say what other tools you use. And so that is very thorough. I just told them I use a clinometer, which is a forestry tool, right? I told them that I did this work over 20 acres. I said that I did 7 common stand exams. That was very thorough instead of just saying I completed forestry inventory. So again, it really just depends on how you see it. And again, if I was trying to give myself the maximum amount of points for showing someone how to do that job, I could easily say I assisted with or served as a team lead, training others how to complete common stand exams and using forestry tools such as a clinometer, Biltmore stick, GPS units, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully that helps. So again, it just depends on how you answered it, how you want to word your experience on your resume. But it's important to hit all of it. Hopefully that answered your question, Ruby. If not, let me know in the chat. All right, so going back to the application here, and you notice that my application status changed. Earlier it said incomplete, now it says application ready to submit. So I got all these green check marks here. If I had skipped a section or I didn't complete a section, it would not give me this green check mark. But because I have it, everything looks great. I'm gonna click that I acknowledge that I have all of my supporting documents. And you notice like it asks so many times during this application process if we have those supporting documents. And again, a lot of people still hit that and they don't have their supporting documents. Thank you for your application for the employment with the Forest Service. You will receive notification once we have reviewed your application. And what happens is I get notified via email that my application has been submitted and received. And then what I can do is click view my application, and it's going to show me every single piece of detail of the application. So all of this stuff is my information that was pulled directly from USAJobs, which is again why it's important for you to make sure that your stuff is updated. We're going to scroll past that. All of my answers that I submitted through those questionnaires, all of that is there. Every single thing that I answered in my application is in this document. Okay, so you can save this, you can keep it, whatever you want to do. It shows what documents I submitted, it shows the time. So if for whatever reason HR says, hey Sylvia, you were not considered because you didn't submit your resume, I'm going to say, oh yes I did. I submitted my resume on February the 17th at 2:18. Please check again. So I want to go through that. Now we're going to go on back. All right, so we're done with the application. We're going to return back to USAJobs. One moment. Okay, so back on USAJobs. Now that I've submitted my application on my profile, it's going to show this job. The job is still open, so it's still green and say that it's accepting applications. The job below that has closed, so it says reviewing. They were reviewing them, the applications. This one is still accepting. Over here, it shows my applicant that I applied on today, 2/17/2022. If for whatever reason you apply for a job and you think 3 days later, I forgot to upload a document, or I think I answered a question wrong, you can click this job and you hit that edit my application, and you can go back in and make edits. So even if you, so like going back to Ruby, how she was talking about those assessment questions, if you get to those assessment questions and you realize that you need to beef up your resume or change something, you can exit out of the job application, make those updates to your resume, re-upload your resume to your profile, and then come here and edit your application and submit that other resume that you changed. So you can do that as long as the job is open. If the job closes, you can no longer make any changes or edits. Another point that I'll make here, that sometimes there are jobs that are announced that might have a maximum amount of applications that they're going to consider. So they may say, we're going to take the first qualified 50 applications, or we're going to take the first 100 applications. Now, qualified applications and applications are different. If they say qualified, that means that if 100 people apply, and the first 75 aren't qualified, then they're going to continue considering people. But if they say that we're going to take the first 100 applications, they literally mean the first 100. So if you're 101, you're $1 short and a day late, so you won't be considered. If you apply and you are number 2 on the list, and you wait 3 days later and you come back in here and you hit this edit my application and you resubmit, no, you are no longer number 2. Now you might be 75 or 150. You have no idea. So that's why, again, it goes back to my other points I was making. Don't do your application in a rush. Make time to do it and do it right the first time. All right, so we're going to go and look at something else real quick. I think I'm gonna click on it from here if I can, if it'll take it. Probably won't take me there. So I'm gonna just search for are there any questions while I'm pulling something else up? Any questions? Drop them in the chat. Will I find what I'm looking for? All right, here we are. So in the how you will be evaluated section, it talks about how it's going to see how well you meet those qualifications. is going to go through those minimum basic qualification questions. The evaluation is based on the level of your experience, education, and training. Da, 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 da. Okay, it's not right there. I thought it was right there. Let's go down to one. There's a lot of information in these announcements, so it's always good if you just kind of go through and make sure you read through the announcements. Yeah. Okay, what I was looking for is not here, but yeah. Okay, so what happens is the hiring process. So there's two ways that this can happen. If you are applying for a job that only had one location listed, we call that a single vacancy announcement. With a single vacancy announcement, that means that there is a hiring panel that has been put together to get through that application process and hire the person. So what that means is you're going to apply for the job. When the job closes, HR will then get that list of those qualified people based off these assessment questions, and they're going to make what we call a cert, which is a certificate. And that certificate will then be passed on to the hiring manager. With that cert will list out all the people that have made it through the qualifications and the eligibility stuff through USAJobs and HR. So if you go and click E on all of those assessment questions and you make it to the top of the list and you give HR, and I'm HR and I'm going through to make sure you have that stuff on your resume. If I see that you do not have that stuff displayed on your resume, then I'm going to cut you there. But let's say you do. HR will check you off. You will make the cert. Notice this job had two GS levels, a GS6 and a GS7. When you apply for the job, if you apply at the 6 level and the 7 level, that gives you two opportunities to make the cert. If you only apply at one level, you only get one opportunity. So let's say you only apply for the 6, then you only have an opportunity to make the 6 cert. If you deem yourself disqualified, then you're done. But let's say you apply for the job and you apply as a 6 and a 7, and somewhere along in those questions you change up your answers, they may say, okay, you're qualified as a 6, but not the 7, but you can still move forward. So the ultimate goal is to make the cert. Make the cert. Doesn't matter what level, make the cert. Okay, so boom, we made the cert. When you get to the hiring manager, now he's going to have his panel to review your application your application. So not really the whole thing, because those assessment questions means absolutely nothing to that panel. That was all for HR to get you to them. Now they're really just looking at your resume. So they're trying to see, okay, HR already qualified you. So now it's not my job to see if you qualified. Now it's my job to see if you're a good fit for this office or for this position for our team. So they're going to go through your resume just to kind of get a feel for who you are and if they want to interview you. So they'll go through their resume reviews and they'll decide who they're going to interview. They have to interview at least 5 people for these positions. So they will do reference checks. They'll do the interviews. Once they do that, they will make a selection. They have to at least have 3 people. They have their selected person and 2 alternates. And usually the next step is to pass it then to leadership. And leadership has to sign off on it. And all of this has to be documented. When we are doing our resume reviews, when we're doing interviews, we have documentation. I'm saying what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, how you answer questions, the highlights, and all of that has to be notated. And so when HR gets it, or not HR, when your leadership gets it, they see your notes. They're like, okay, Sylvia, you selected Jane Doe. I want to see why. Okay, Jane Doe did great on her interview, and these are the highlights. Okay, Jane Doe had a great resume. It looks good. And this is why she didn't select John Doe or, someone else. So all of that has to be provided to leadership, and leadership will sign off on it, and then you will get what we call a tentative selection notice. So HR will call you and say, hi, Jane Doe, you are being offered the forestry technician position in Fresno, California. Would you like to accept this position? You are being considered as a GS6 with the target grade of the GS7. I say, oh my gosh, yes, so excited. I want to take this job. And so they say, okay, now we need you to send us your your transcript, your official transcript. So we get off the phone. I will then go to my university website. I will put a request in for a transcript to be sent directly to HR. It cannot come to me and then go to HR. It has to go straight to HR. So they'll give me an email address to have it sent to. I'll have that sent in, and then HR will receive that. They will finish the process, and then they will make what we call a job offer. So there's two offers. There's a tentative selection notice, and then there's a job offer. You are not safe, secure, and set in stone until you get the job offer. When you get the job offer will then have literally all the information: your position, the location, your duty station, your GS levels, your starting pay, that salary range is going to have your start date, all of those details. And guess what? The job is over. This is done. And then you're going to get started working. So maybe that was a little bit more information that you guys wanted to know, but if it was, then sorry. But at least you know the entire process of how it typically works in the process of being hired. Now, that can look a little different if you are applying to a collective hiring event where we have a lot of positions and a lot of locations that we're filling. Kind of like I showed you guys how we're doing that big hiring event with SRM where there's a ton of positions. So that one can look slightly different because there's a lot of people that are assisting with that one. But the process that I just explained is when we do our normal single vacancy announcement. So looks like I have a question. I have a question for the DHA certificate. During the last session, you talked about once we receive our certificate, we have to have a regional force assigned. Is that something we send to them? No. Great question. No. So, okay, what's going to happen is some of you guys are going to be ending the program in March, next month. Some of you have been extended. If you are ending the program, the day that you hit your 960 hours, you're good to go, right? So what happens is the partner are monitoring your hours. The day that you hit your 960 hours, they're going to go through and make sure that, okay, yes, he really did or she really did hit her $960. She has a degree from the University of Washington, and she completed our survey. They're going to ask you to do like some closeout stuff. After you have satisfied all of that from the partner, they're going to then submit what we call a statement of completion to your regional liaison or to the Washington office. Your regional liaison will then take that information, that statement of completion, and then they will go ahead and develop your certificate, the certificate I showed you guys. Populate all of your information in, then they are going to pass it to leadership. Leadership will sign it, send it back to that liaison. That liaison will then issue it to you. So what that issuance looks like, it will come via email. So when they hit submit on that certificate, it's going to generate an email that will then go to you. We usually send it to you, the partner, and we always have a copy in the Washington office. So that's how that process works. So you hit your hours, finish the program requirements, statement of completion, certificate, and then it's in your hands. If you are being extended, you will not receive your certificate until you finish the program unless you request it. So only those that are finishing the program will be automatically issued their certificate. If you are being extended, the ball is in your court to request it because you have the ability to wait until you're completely done with the program to get your certificate. Because again, once it is signed and issued, your 2-year window starts. So keep that in mind. Hopefully that answer was good for you there. All right, are there any other questions? Drop them in the chat, or you can use the hand raising function and take yourself off mute and ask out loud. You are welcome. Any other questions? So you guys know how to apply for the job. Oh, there you go. What'd you say?
Does our volunteer hours count towards our 960 specifically for like law enforcement?
So again, law enforcement, you guys are a little different. So we have a cap on you guys, which is a little different, but your partner is aware of what that number is. So as long as you don't go past that number that we identified with your partner, they are counting some of your volunteer hours, but not all of them. But you guys, law enforcement, you guys are going to hit your 960 before everybody else because you guys are working more. Thanks, Daisy. Will this be recorded? Yes, it was recorded, and we'll share this out. Are there any other questions? Everybody understands the DHA process and as well as the applying with the certificate using non-competitive, the USA job. Do you guys understand that difference?
I have a question.
Mhm.
My RA position got extended another 3 months.
Uh-huh.
So I'm wondering, like, when is a good time to ask for the DHA? Like, should I ask for it right when I get my hours, or should I wait towards the end? Like, is there, like pros and cons to each? What do you recommend?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. So if I was you and I knew that I was only going to be extended for 3 months, one thing to keep in mind that you guys, if you get hired through the DHA way, it typically takes about 2 months. It can take a little longer, but in most cases, it takes about 2 months to get through that process. So what you don't want to do is have that hiring manager waiting on you to receive your certificate. So let's say I'm like, you know what, I want to hire you. And you're like, okay, great. You want to hire me? Well, first I got to get my certificate. So now you got to email the partner and say, hey, Mobilize Green or whoever your partner is, I would like to be issued my certificate. And then they got to do the statement of completion and go through the whole process that I explained. That's added built-in time. Now, you could already have your certificate. So for you, 3 months isn't really a long time. That's really not taking a big chunk out of your 2 year of eligibility. So if I knew that I was going to be actively looking for jobs, I would get my certificate right away. For people that have another plan, let's say you might want to go to grad school in the fall, I wouldn't want my certificate window my time to start ticking until as late as possible. So if I was being extended for 3 months and I know I'm going to grad school for a year, I'm like, nope, don't give it to me until you absolutely positively have to. Like the last day that you can possibly give it to me so that I still have more time to go to grad school, finish that, and still use my certificate. So everybody's situation is different. Your plans are different. What you need to do are different. So it really just really depends on you. But if you know that you're ready to start actively looking and searching and applying for jobs or being considered, go ahead and tell the partner that you want your certificate. But again, if you've been extended, you have to ask. So when you hit your hours, tell your partner right away, hey, I know I'm being extended, but I would like to go ahead and request my certificate. Does that help?
Yeah, that answers my question perfectly. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, looks like I have two more hands. First we're gonna go to Anthony and then we'll go to Reagan. Go for it.
So I'm gonna hit my 960 I believe at the end of next week, and I was advised to ask for my direct hire certificate as fast as possible because in order for HR and payroll to get going, it takes about 2 to 4 pay periods. So kind of alluding to what you're saying to try to get it as soon as you can because it is kind of a long process. And for those who even got extended to, it'd be easier to be proactive as opposed to kind of waiting out.
Yeah, yep. That's exactly what I was saying. So, some people have already been talking to folks about being hired. So some of you guys are in the position where they're literally just waiting on your certificate. Others of you still got to do some work, find your place. But yeah, go ahead and get that certificate. Unless you, like I said, have a real reason to hold off, go ahead and get that certificate. All right. Thanks for that, Anthony. Reagan, go for it.
Hey, so I'm applying through outreach to find some positions, and I this may have been kind of answered. I'm just trying to clarify. Basically, I'm like I said, I'm trying to apply through outreach. I finish up in March, so should I go ahead and reach out and let them know I want my certificate right away, or do I just wait until I'm complete? How would I? What should I do there?
That's up to you. What I will say is, as a program manager, sometimes you're managing so many different things. You have a lot going on. So sometimes if someone tells you something too far in advance, it may get lost, or they just might forget about it. So if I was you, I would wait until I'm about to hit my hours, and hopefully you guys are tracking your hours too, not just a partner. Hopefully you guys are tracking. So I would say I would wait till it's time for me to hit my hours, and then I would just send an email to my partner and say, hey, I know I'm being extended, but I hit my hours on Friday. Could you please issue my statement of completion to my liaison once I hit my hours? Simple as that. But I wouldn't do it too early because, again, people are busy. things get lost, and you don't want to say it now, and then that program manager forgets, and then you're still waiting and waiting. You're like, oh yeah, I told you that 3 months ago. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. So I would wait.
Okay, I was just wondering because in my case, I'm not being extended, so I'm trying to apply for jobs now. So I'm just wondering if
Yeah, yeah. The thing about it is, of course, people that are being extended are at an advantage, because they're able to get it and continue working. But those of you like yourself, like you said, you're getting your certificate and you want to use it right away. So, but unfortunately, those that are not being extended, you won't get your certificate until like you are either off-boarded or in your last week. But yeah. So since you're not being extended, you're gonna get yours regardless right away. But you can still ask if you want to. All right, Julian.
Hi. I got signed on for a year-long program. Do those year-long programs also get extended as well, or is it kind of a case-by-case situation?
Nope, you're good to go for a whole year.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, you only need 960 hours to truly qualify for a job. So let's say, you hit your hours and you're like, I know these people funded me for a whole year, but I'm ready to be a federal employee.
sounds like a really
You can go ahead and apply for jobs. You can go ahead and talk to other hiring managers and say, I'm still in my program for, another 6 months, but I'm ready to start work. So if someone makes you a job offer, then hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Right?
Got you. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I was just asking just to make sure I didn't have to worry about, oh, I can possibly get extended later and get my certificate early.
yeah, it's totally up to you. You can stay in the program and work your whole 12 months, or you can get that certificate, start applying and potentially transition into something else, all within those 12 months. So everybody's situation is different.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Go for it, Maya.
Yeah, so just going off of this, so if we do have some time left in our contract, but we are offered a permanent, like full-time job, how do we coordinate our like resignation, I guess, or how possible is
Yeah.
that?
Great question. I'm actually glad you asked that question because I really want to address this. I think that sometimes people feel like, oh, they funded me for a year. I feel bad if I leave early. But me personally, at the end of the day, it's your life, right? Your life, your career, and you have to make the best move. And an opportunity that might be available right now may not be available in 6 months or in a year. So you have to make the best move for you. We'll figure out the logistical things beyond that, right? We'll figure out the funds and all that. So you have to do what's best for you. So if you find yourself where you have your certificate, you're in a program, you have a lot more time left, and you come across an opportunity and you apply for it, you're being considered for it, then just go ahead and tell your supervisor, say, hey, I really enjoy my job, but I'm really ready to become a federal employee and I have this opportunity. So just be transparent, just let them know. And what'll happen is we'll start that, whoever's hiring you, they'll start that hiring action. And once you have been provided a start date, then you'll just let your RA supervisor know, like, hey, I am being hired and this is my tentative start date. And then we'll let the partner know. And then you can literally work all the way up until you're starting in your position. So all the way up to a Friday, you could be in your RA position and you can be starting your Forest Service position by that Monday. So that's typically how it works, or sometimes there might be a break in the service. But yeah, you guys don't feel bad. If you come across a great opportunity, then you have to make the best decision for yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Go for it, Ruby.
So where does everybody find jobs to use the DHA? Because I know that's not on USAJobs, correct?
Right. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so Rep Connect portal. So hopefully you guys all have a profile because Route Connect portal is blowing up. Everybody is finding out about it. Hiring managers, leadership, everybody. So if you have not updated your Route Connect portal, make sure that it's updated. If you don't even have a profile, make sure you create a profile. So that's starters, right? Because a lot of people are being discovered right here on this platform. So that's first thing. The second thing is what you can do here is just go to the outreach database. So the way it works is there's two words that you must not confuse. There's outreach and then there's announcement. Before a job is announced, announce means it's on USAJobs. Outreach means it has not hit USAJobs. So anything can happen. And what I mean by anything can happen is if you find a job here or somebody just emails you a job and say, hey, this job is going to be advertised, you can reach out to that hiring manager and say, hey, my name is Sylvia, and I have this route certificate that makes me eligible for a direct hire authority. I'm really considering or I'm very interested in your position. Would you mind having a 15-minute conversation with me? And in that 15 minutes, sell yourself. And if they like you, then they may say, hey, you know what? I don't have to advertise my job. I'm just going to go ahead and hire this person using a DHA. So you can go to this outreach database right here and, play with these filters and put in different stuff if you are not as flexible. Some people are flexible, so they're willing to go any and everywhere. So you can look at anything. But if you know that you're only trying to stay in a certain state or whatever, then you want to make sure that you look within that one to find those locations. So I'm going to click on something random. All right, here's a permanent position. All right, so this is a recreation assistant position, GS7, and it has a contact person here. It was posted today, and it closes on the 4th of March. So what I would do was the contact person, Crystal. I'm going to email Crystal and tell Crystal who I am and send Crystal my resume and ask Crystal for a call because I'm interested in her position and I am an easy hire. She don't even have to apply, announce her job. So this is where you go. You guys should all spend some good time on the employee outreach database as well as the Route Connect portal. And keep in mind that your profile must be complete before Vanessa or I will approve it. So if you did not complete it, we're not approving it. So make sure that you take care of that. Did that help, Ruby?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? You guys feeling good? You guys feeling good about your federal resumes and how to develop a federal resume? Hopefully you guys are feeling good about USAJobs, how to search for the positions, how to apply for the positions, your required documents that you need. Hopefully you guys are feeling good about all of that. Let me know. Tell me what you're thinking, how you're feeling. Drop me some stuff in the chat. Is there anything that you need me to go over real quick again before we leave off of here? Let's see. You have an additional step for the DHA. Okay, so hopefully you guys in Region 3 seeing Daisy's comment in the chat that they have a additional step for requesting your DHA. So make sure that you check the chat for that link. For direct hire, who do we send the resume and transcripts to? HR? No. So for the direct hire, so for that same example I just gave you with a lady named Crystal, say you talk to Crystal and Crystal's like, you know what, Sylvia, I want to hire you. You're going to send Crystal your resume again if you had to make any changes to it. You're going to send Crystal your transcript and you're going to send Crystal your DHA certificate. Crystal needs all 3 of those documents before she can start the process to hire you. If Crystal don't have those documents, Crystal can't do anything for you. So got to make sure Crystal have those documents or whoever that hiring manager is that's trying to consider you for the DHA. They got to have those required documents. Okay. Where to find a portal? Oh, you didn't know where to find a portal? Oh my gosh. So let me drop the link in the chat too. Thanks for dropping that outreach database link, Dawn, and I'm gonna drop the portal link. Who do we contact to activate our account? Oh, you got it for me. Thanks, Vanessa. Vanessa and myself, send us an email if you have completed your profile. Like I said, some people will go in there and they don't finish out. So what we mean by completing it, fill in all the details, right? Don't leave anything blank. We need your details completed before we'll approve it. So If you've done that already, then go ahead and send Vanessa and or myself an email to say, please activate my profile. All right, so before you guys leave, I just want to be, we can stop the recording, Vanessa. But I want to share something with you guys before you go.